Well, he's back. The former mayor of McLennan Chisholm wants to be on city council again. It's an interesting idea. But let's have some straight talk. I'm Bunker Bob. This is the Bunker Bob Show. Well, and welcome back once again, and it is great to have with me the Doctor of Finance, Scott Turnbull himself. We've been making a day of it and going through different topics and highlighting some issues that we know that you're going to want to know about, and we're going to do a little housekeeping. And one of those items of housekeeping is the fact that Herman Larkin's last meeting was the last board retreat, or excuse me, council retreat, where it was. You've got to watch the video on that, where we show you why this city council wants no one to know what they're really doing, and will do everything that they can to make it as hard as possible for you to know what's really happening in your city government. They will, however, mislead you. They'll lie to you. They'll give you half-truths, because they have an agenda, and that agenda is partly in the back pocket of many developers. Obviously, in my opinion, I believe that money is changing hands under the table, and they don't really give a darn about any of us, or those of us who care about preserving our open spaces and keeping our tax rate low. That's my belief. That's what I believe. I have a right to believe that. If you read their Facebook posts, some of these vile individuals say things that are beyond the pale, beyond scope of reason. And so what I've just said is incredibly tame compared to some of the comments that they make and are trying to perpetuate. The issues that we want to talk about today, one of them is the fact that former Mayor Nathan Hodges, it appears, is going to be the next member of City Council to fill Herman Larkin's seat. And I find that fascinating. And the reason I find it fascinating is because because I was the one who called Nathan Hodges begging him to run for mayor when I was running for city council, and Wayne Orchard was running for city council, wanted him to run against Gary Moody. Why didn't I run for mayor? Well, very simply, my wife said the last thing she wants me to do is run for mayor, because I'll spend all my time on city issues and it'll hurt my business. And regardless, it did hurt my business when I was on city council and then mayor. And the reason I asked Nathan Hodges to run was because, for a couple of reasons. I understood that he was as upset over some of the decisions that the former council had made. I believed that he was as committed to the issues as I was, and Wayne Orchard was, and others in our community like Melody Osario and Adrian Balcom. We actually believed that those things were important, but more than anything, the reason is I knew his brother and had coached soccer with his brother, and his brother Andrew is an incredible man of God. I trust the guy. I mean, he's a truly genuinely good guy, and he doesn't live in McLennan Chisholm, but he said his brother does, and he might be willing to do it. His brother. So Nathan Hodges is a periodontist. He's basically a surgeon, oral surgeon, or something like that. And he said when he resigned from office early that it was because he didn't have time. It was it was too stressful, and he didn't have time. The real reason why he resigned from office was something that Wayne Orchard and I were willing to overlook, since he was agreeing or deciding to step down, because he was facing an open meetings violation. This is something that is empirically true. You see, when Jerry Klutz, former council member Jerry Klutz, died while in office, his seat was open. And I had proposed putting Adrian Balcom in filling his seat with Adrian Balcom. As part of that, I made that announcement at one of the council meetings and said openly and publicly that I would be nominating Adrian Balcom for this position. Wayne Orchard also agreed, and he thought that Adrian Balcom would be the best suited to fill that seat, primarily because Ms. Balcom was very involved in the community, and she involved herself in the council meetings. She attended a lot of them, but also brought things to the city council's attention that we were not aware of, and helped us, especially when it came to Sonoma Verde issues. She was very well liked in the community and had a stellar resume. So we made it public. We didn't hide the fact that we were nominating her, and this was important because we felt that being open and transparent was essential for good government. So that's how we moved forward. Unbeknownst to me, I get Nathan Hodges decides that he doesn't like Adrian Balcom, that he wants to nominate a friend of his, a patient of his named Mark Kippett. You see, his patient is more than just a patient, is a friend. But when we were running for city council, and Nathan Hodges, we had talked about running as a ticket. Nathan said, I can't say anything bad about Mark Kippett, who was running against Wayne Orchard at the time. And so he made it clear that he would not cross that line, that he would not, he was going to run with us, he would endorse us, but he would not say anything negative against Mark Kippett. So, of course, Mark Kippett lost the election, as did Gary Moody and Steve Hadfield, in a landslide victory in the largest voter turnout in the history of our city by a factor of 3 at that time. So, what was interesting is, while I was promoting Adrian Balcom, and Wayne Orchard expressed that this is who he was going to support as well. We did so much. We even had a reception for citizens to come to City Hall. It was going to be at City Hall. Wayne, I had something else to do. Wayne basically managed that reception so that citizens could come and meet Adrian Balcom and give us their impression of whether or not she was suitable to serve on City Council. While we were doing that, Nathan Hodges was contacting members of City Council and asking them if they would support instead Mark Kippett to run for that seat. So that's so behind the scenes, that's what was going on. This is what's called a walking quorum, and this is the reason why the law was created, so that decisions could not be made behind closed doors when those kinds of decisions should be deliberated in public. So behind my back, he started doing that and trying to convince Gary Lovell and he got Councilman Short to agree to nominate Mark Kippett. And as part of that, and just to be clear, I don't believe that any of the other councilmen were part of this, and there's a reason why. Nathan Hodges, Mayor Hodges, sent me an email, and I had stated that I was going to be using the City Hall. I sent an email to the city, CCing the city council to let them know that I'd be using the City Hall for the purpose of giving an open reception for Adrian Balcom and any other candidate who wished to, anyone else that may wish to be nominated. And at the time, Nathan sent me an email back and says, well, yeah, I'm just not sure about this, stating something about the fact that, he said there are other people who are applying or want to fill that seat. And I knew that Rhonda Smith had applied for that seat. She was, at the time, I believe, the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. What?
Davis.
Yeah, Rhonda Davis. Thank you very much. So she wanted to be nominated. I believed that Adrian was best suited at the time, but he said that others had expressed interest. And I emailed him back and said, well, the only one I know about is Rhonda Davis. If there's any others that you are aware of, please let me know so that at least we can start vetting them. No email. He never responded to that email. So the night of when we were going to be making nominations, it was on the agenda to make nominations for a possible, to replace the late Jerry Klutz. By that time, Adrian Balcom had met with Rita Klutz, Jerry Klutz's wife, and Jerry Klutz liked Adrian Balcom very much. because Jerry worked with me and Wayne when we were running for office, and he really liked Adrienne because of her spirit. And so we basically thought we had all of our bases covered, but Wayne Orchard didn't tell me something. He didn't tell me that he had been contacted by Nathan Hodges to see if he would support his friend, Mark Kippett. He didn't tell me that because doing so would be actually crossing the line of deliberation by that time. You see, there are 4 members of city council at that time and 1 mayor. The mayor does not vote except in the case of a tie. So what Mayor Hodges was trying to do was undermine the process and go behind my back as I was being open and transparent, and was incredibly deceptive to try to get his friend, to try to get a patient of his, where he was receiving monetary benefit from this guy, Mark Kippett, trying to get him put on city council. It all unraveled that evening when Mark Kippett, he comes, sits in the front row, Mark Kippett, who never talks to me, and he says, "Hey, Bob." By the name, my name is Robert. He knows that, but he called me Bob. He's the guy who gave me the name Bunker Bob. See, that's what conservatives do. We take what liberals try to throw at us and we use it against them. Okay, you want to call me Bunker Bob? Then I'm Bunker Bob. Good for me. I'm good with that. Well, Mark Kippett was smug. He was sitting on the front row. He knew something that I didn't. That Nathan Hodges had been working behind the scenes to get him put on the city council. Well, all of that unraveled in the city council meeting, and I browbeat, and I told Gary Lovell, I said, if you think this is okay, I can't imagine how you could support this. That's when Wayne Orchard said, "Hey, by the way, Nathan contacted me as well." So a clear violation of the Texas Open Meetings Act occurred. So after that meeting was over, and everything fell apart because Gary Lovell decided to abstain from voting, which meant we could not appoint another person to that seat. Afterwards, I told Nathan Hodges that what he did was a violation of the Texas Open Meetings Act, and I plan to file charges with the Texas Attorney General's office to that effect. I'm going to use I'm going to make open records requests for every email that he sent, his phone records, everything. Because what he did was the definition of a violation of the Texas Open Meetings Act. So what did Nathan Hodges do? He decides that he's going to make a statement at the end of a meeting, at the end of a city council meeting, and said that it's too much of a burden. He's too busy, and he does not want to proceed. Now, the thing is, this is not about, to me, it's not about destroying someone's reputation. It's about what is right in government. I think he did the right thing in stepping down. It's an honorable thing to do. And with that, I was good. I'm not going to follow after and try to drive the guy into the ground because I thought he did the right thing. Now, that doesn't say anything to the fact that since he left office, he worked behind the scenes to undermine, to help perpetuate misinformation about me and others on the council, Wayne Orchard, Scott Turnbull, Adrienne Balcom, and the like, so that he could help his friend, Mark and Lorna Kippett, and drive forward their leftist agenda, which is to basically get rid of this idea that these open spaces are important, and that a small government isn't a great thing. Now they want big government, and that's what they're driving towards. So now we have a vacancy on the city council, vacated by Herman Larkin, one of the most corrupt individuals, in my opinion, that I've ever run across. This is a guy who is the treasurer of the McLennan-Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department, who was part of a scheme to defraud taxpayers of tens of thousands of dollars by having the fire chief's brother, a man who Larkin said was his best friend, having the fire chief's brother act as the sign that he was a grant writer. Even though the guy has never written a grant, no other clients, he has one client. And even though the application for submitting these grants to the state of Texas, a state-funded, a taxpayer-funded granting institution, even though the application was 3 pages, a fifth grader could fill in, because the law allows it, the grant writer could receive 10% of every grant paid to the McClennan-Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department. And so the contract's very specific. Any grant that that the MCVFD has awarded, it doesn't say any grant that the MCVFD has paid. So there were things that the MCVFD was awarded, like training, that they never went on. But that didn't mean that the grant writer didn't get paid. Now, can I prove that happened? No, because they refused to allow an audit, even though the year before, in agreement, as part of agreeing to fund their increase, I think it was a 46% increase in their funding over the previous year, they agreed to submit to an independent audit to a certified audit by an independent accounting firm, the same one that had been auditing the city for the previous 10 years. Of course, when it came time to do the audit that next year, that's when the MCVFD said, no, we're not gonna let you audit. And that's when Herman Larkin and the gang and the Kippets and of course with Hodges' help, they all looked out and made an effort to destroy my reputation based upon half-truths, misinformation, and outright lies. Now, Nathan Hodges is on the agenda, on Tuesday's agenda, to fulfill the unfulfilled term of Herman Larkin. You go from one end of corruption to another. The fact that I'll just say this: Nathan Hodges is perfect for this city council. He will fit in perfectly. But make no mistake, this is not a guy, in my opinion, who should ever be in public office. He's someone who literally should be tarred and feathered and run out of town on a rail, as they did in the Revolutionary days. Of course, we don't do that because we're civil. I believe in civility. Of course, I would never want any harm to come to anyone physically. I simply think that this is the wrong decision. So, Scott Turnbull, you are here today too, and you have some thoughts about it as well. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm a little bit more moderate than you are.
Yes, you are.
I'd probably use honey instead of tar, but anyway. No.
Very good. Touche. I like that.
Well, first off, my opinion of Mr. Larkin's a little higher than yours, but not much. The thing that bothers me is that last year, around budget time, September, October, Mr. Larkin was overheard telling a citizen that he was only going to remain on the council until the fire department issue was completed. He then repeated that to another council member, who is where I got it from. So, while to others this resignation is a surprise, it didn't come as one to me. In fact, I actually expected him to resign earlier. What I do wish is that he had resigned in time to put his position on the May ballot. I understand that his decision was made because of the health of his wife, but she has been ill for a while, and hopefully she holds on and gets better and they can enjoy their time with her family in Virginia.
Absolutely.
But I can't help believe that Herman knew that he would be leaving, and for some reason he didn't want to put this up for a ballot.
Absolutely.
That disappoints, is his action that disappoints me. Jerry Klutz's position came open. I stood up and said, there are two ways to fill this position. One is by appointment, the other is by a special election, and that the citizens should be allowed to fill the position. Now, that wasn't what the council decided to do. They decided to appoint.
And we have a fundamental disagreement with that. The issue for me was not. I respected your position. I did.
You did, but
you're painting it in a way that I don't agree. That I don't think was true.
Okay, but I distinctly remember it.
I do too.
Because after Hodges resigned and you were going to, the discussion was to appoint you as mayor.
Right.
I got up, well, actually, I was on the council at that time, and I said exactly the same thing.
Right.
We should not.
You were not on the council. You did not vote. You were not on the council at that time. No, you were not on the council at that time when I was appointed mayor. I was appointed mayor before you were on the council.
Okay.
And
sorry, you're correct.
Right. And so the issue was we were at a point where we could not put that that post on the ballot. That was the one. That was the first thing, because we'd already passed the time for us to be able to do that. The second thing is we were in the middle of a negotiation, because we learned that this 4,000 acres was about to be, they were about to create a mud district in this 4,000 acres. And to negotiate, the council, when we were talking about how would we negotiate with the mayor of Rockwall, the issue was we needed the mayor to do it. That was the other thing.
I agree with your reasons.
Right. And I respect your position on it, but your idea was just go. Robert, you should be mayor pro tem, and then you can have the power to vote, right? Mm-hmm. And you're basically play the role of mayor. And my point was, I think we need. I believe in the power of the collective, and I think it's a good thing to have as many people as you can on a city council, so that you do have varying ideas and judgments. It also puts us in a bad position should we lose another member of council for whatever reason, for stepping down or what have you. And so it's a different in philosophy. It's a difference in philosophy. You were consistent in your position. You stayed that way in every time a vacancy has been created. You've always said, I think that should go to the people. I disagree, because you're basically creating a special election for a seat. It would have been November when that election would have taken place, and then there would be another election in May, and it just didn't seem like a good use of $10,000, which is what it cost the city to run an election. But you were consistent. I respected your point of view. You expressed it openly in a public meeting, right?
Both times, yes.
Right. So both times, and so yeah.
And I will do so again tomorrow night. And I
ironically, I disagree. I still disagree with you. I think the city council should have the right to appoint. I just think that Nathan Hodges is the absolute last person, next to Mark Kippett and Mike Donegan and Gary Moody, that they should appoint.
Oh, you left out Steve Hatfield.
And Steve Hatfield, the guy that was Citizen of the Year twice while he was on city council.
Okay, now the thing about this is that this council, everybody on there has ran on wanting to get feedback and input from the citizens. And they have on this agenda to do an appointment.
Yep.
There's no discussion coming up, unless I missed it on the agenda. There's not an open meeting for people to say, no, we think so-and-so should be considered.
Right, exactly.
They have done nothing. In
That's
fact,
correct.
the only announcement that has been made publicly was when Herman stood up and said, I'll be serving through July, and that will be it. If you want to run or want to fill the position and serve the city, contact the city administrator or the mayor. That's it. There has been no.
Is there anything on the website?
There has been nothing.
Somebody look
to my
who's
knowledge.
watching. Check the website. Let me know if there was anything posted on the website that said, "Hey, if you want to be on city council, fill this seat."
That's what I'm talking about. They did not reach.
They didn't post it on the website
to
either.
Anybody.
That's interesting.
Other than their person. Now.
Yep. It's an inside job.
Okay. Now I'm.
That's what I think. That's what I think.
You've ran your mouth. Now let me do it.
All right, you run your mouth. All right, your turn.
When Hodges, I wasn't aware of your information. When Hodges announced his resignation, it was because his partner had left to go to Colorado, I believe, and that was the reason why his workload had gone up, and he needed to step aside. If true or not,
is that from his public statement?
Yeah. True or not, his right to resign, if he had just stood up and said, look, this is not what I thought it was going to be, I can't do it, total respect. That's fine. But why he would come back for more, and more importantly, up until June 7th, 17 days prior to Herman's announcement, Mr. Hodges pulled his house off the market. He has been trying since 2015 to sell his house, and to my knowledge, and I may be wrong, to my knowledge, he doesn't have another residence in McClendon Chisholm. So if he wants out of McClendon Chisholm so bad, why does he want to serve on city council?
That is a great question.
So that's my concern. Like I said, tomorrow night I'll be there saying the same thing I always do, that the people should be given the right to vote, and if it's $9,000 that it cost, hey, they're going to blow a whole lot more money than that. They're talking about spending $10,000 or $19,000 on a study.
Oh gosh. Yeah, and I've got confirmation that it's not on the city website. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
But that's one thing that we needed to do housekeeping on. Another thing that I'll be addressing from the citizens' comments is the contract that, well, I'm assuming we have a contract with the person who has been harvesting the foliage. I can't call it hay and I can't call it weeds. It's somewhere in between.
Yeah, it's hay.
The growth that's on the undeveloped acreage of the city.
The city's property, yes.
And
yes. I'm
know
glad
that,
you brought this up.
That we instructed Mr. Butler we instructed Mr. Pascal to draft a lease, and we instructed Mr. Butler to get it signed. I know the lease was drafted, and
yeah, I do too.
I believe it was left unsigned and still remains unsigned, but that property is being accessed and driven on, and growth on it being removed without any remuneration to the city.
Yeah, this is Ty Davenport that we're talking about. We talked about him on the last show, and this is the guy who basically, as we talked about the Triple Creek Ranch, he owns the property that's around City Hall, and so he just basically looks at the City Hall property and he plants and harvests off the city property without any permission to do so. When I was mayor, I said, wait, who is that's doing that? And that's when Dave Butler said, well, that's Ty Davenport. He's basically harvesting that area. I said, okay, do we have an agreement for that? And no, it may have been you that even brought it up as well. And that's when we said, okay, well, we kind of need to start. We need to have an agreement. I mean, this is not his property; it's the city's property to begin with, and so.
And it's not only the fact that the city's not getting any money, and this was Butler's argument. Well, we'd have to pay for somebody to do that, and there hasn't been a year gone by
that we haven't paid.
That somebody hasn't came to the city hall and said, "Can I harvest that?"
Yep.
We could have gotten something.
Yes.
But regardless of that, without having a contract,
it's theft.
Well, yeah, it's that. But let's say he damages his tractor.
Or
he gets out and is messing with the sickle or rake that he uses and gets hurt. Is the city responsible? Because he's on city property.
Well, I know who you can ask to get that answer. Mark Kippett.
Oh, you mean the SME?
Yes.
Yeah.
He'd probably know the legal. He'd probably know the legal ramifications of that. And I can guarantee you, it's not. The city wouldn't be liable because again, this guy's they're in cahoots together, right? So it'll be all okay. It'll be all okay. It'll be benefit to the city, which is bogus. But we're not talking about chump change here. So I mean, we're talking about real money, and that the city's property is being used, and the city. I started the process. You I think finished it where you had the draft of that lease agreement created.
No, I know that it was drafted, and
it was draft. We paid the city attorney for it.
Right.
Yeah,
and
to draft that.
I have not seen it or read it, but it's my understanding that it's in a file and that it has never been executed. And
well, that's because the Davenports are contributors to the mayor and all 5 members of the city council. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. I'm supposed to ask you about Lisa talking about the audio and minutes weren't done in the past. It was mentioned at the retreat. Do you know what that's about?
Well, I actually know I didn't hear it. What I'm assuming she's talking about is that back when they were in the day hut, what is now the day hut, at the old city hall, that they didn't have room for a recording system.
That's not true. Because they did have a recorder. When I attended those city council meetings, they had a little handheld.
Did they? Okay.
They sure did. They were recording those meetings.
All right.
So, if Lisa said that, then she's probably misinformed.
I don't think
I'm not going to say she's lying.
That they did it very far back.
As far back as when I attended meetings, and it wasn't many meetings that I attended, but the ones that I did, every one of them, they had that little hand recorder. And they didn't keep those recordings, but I think it helped the secretary with their
well, perhaps that's because since I've been involved and they had the new system, which is they of course have been storing it.
Right.
You can get it. It's not whether they were recording it. It's whether or not I think
they were keeping it.
They were keeping it.
Well, I did ask in an open records request to the city. I did ask what the policy on recording. You know what? I didn't. Oh no, I've asked that question before in an open records request. What the policy on recording meetings is, and the city has none. It's something that I probably, as mayor, should have done, but I just, you know, I believe in open and transparent government, and I figured that anyone in my shoes would too, and so I was dumb enough to believe that everyone else thought like I did. The difference is actions are different than words.
They're most definitely. You set a precedent for that, and all of last year there have been citizens recording and broadcasting from just about every possible location in the chambers other than right up at the dais. So if they were to say, no, you've got to go stand in the corner if you show up, then it is solely to prevent you from doing what you want to do, not that there's a policy.
No, absolutely.
At this time.
No, I agree. I actually asked that in the open records request, this last one that I made. I asked what policies, what provisions and policies, decisions, whatever, is restricting the media or is directs the media on how they record meetings, and I was informed in writing that there is no standards, there are no provisions, there is no policies. So if the city attempts to do that, I have spoken with the Texas Attorney General's office. They have said that I have the right to do so, and that as a member of the media, which this show constitutes a form of media, I have a right to go in and do that. So we may be. I will be doing it for these silly retreats.
We got a little clarification from one of our listeners that she said that the city is doing above and beyond what we have to do, and that's true. There's no requirement for live streaming or any of that.
That's right.
We came up and said, when Adrian and I were elected, that was one of the things that we said. Technology is there, let's do it. And you helped out greatly.
The very first meeting, your very first meeting, we were live. We did Facebook Live, thanks to Adrian Balcom and you. We really had a good thing going.
So,
and it cost the citizens nothing.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
That's the other point.
We did it on the cheap because I can make a penny squeal, but so it still goes back to if that comment from Lisa was made to try to explain why they didn't do the video or audio, it doesn't fly because they claim that they are open and transparent and want to hear from the public, and that setup was anything but.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah, the meeting, the Board of Adjustment meeting is tonight at 7, I believe. It may be 6:30. So I wonder if somebody can give me confirmation on that. And
also, don't forget, guys, anybody out there listening, you know how the opposition is.
Yep.
The Rosinis are going in front of the city council tonight.
No. Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, excuse me.
On Tuesday night.
To present the same thing that was presented at P&Z.
Yep.
And there'll be a public hearing. Hopefully, the mayor will actually maintain control and stop the BS.
He won't.
But, well,
he's
every once in a while you got to have a positive thought. Robert.
Yeah,
That's what I keep getting told.
Too much of a realist.
Well, I said hopefully. I didn't say that he would. And that it will be a basic rubber stamp of the document that state law requires them to pass because it complies with everything.
Yep.
So, but my call here is that for anybody who wants the Rosinis to get a fair shake,
yes,
come up. Hell, if you don't want to come up, at least send an email.
Send an email.
It's
Yep.
mayor@mcclendenchisholm.com. And council 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 at mcclendenchisholm.com. And tell them to get off the Rosini's back.
Yeah.
Because they have done above and beyond putting up with the BS. And all I can say, and I like my neighbors, I'm not complaining, that's the reason I didn't go out, but if these people are complaining about noise, they should have had to put up with the 2-day party that went on behind my house.
Or you live, or live next to the dolls when they have their Diwali celebration in the middle of the night. They'll shoot off fireworks without notifying anyone. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Rosinis deserve this community's appreciation for bringing such a unique venue to our city, and instead they're getting vilified and demonized. I think that the city council should also throw Jody Wright off of Planning and Zoning Commission and reprimand the Planning and Zoning Commission for overstepping its bounds, because if you listen to the last show, the P&Z run amok. This is a highly politicized little group of political appointees that have no business doing what they're doing. At least when I say no business doing what they're doing, going off the reservation and ignoring the directions given to them by the city planner.
Well, without a doubt, the vice chairman should be removed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because she had a conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
And she allowed the meeting. She failed to control the meeting.
Absolutely.
But I can tell you right now what the response would be if you walked up and asked them or addressed them.
Addressed who?
The city council. They don't have anybody to replace them with.
Oh, really?
They asked for applications. This is the group that had all these supporters that were behind them, that were going to help them save the city from those other people.
Right.
They got just enough applications to fill the P&Z and the one alternate, or two alternates, and to fill the Board of Adjustments. And I think they had enough for the alternate. But they actually were considering allowing one person to be an alternate on both boards.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they were told that wasn't
but in fairness, I also, when I was looking at the minutes in the review and talking with a few people, that there's actually a member of either Planning and Zoning Board of Adjustment whose term wasn't up, and yet they replaced them, which is a violation of the law, and didn't explain why. It is political. So it is all political gamesmanship. I think it's sickening what's happening in city council. But you're right. I think that they're going to try to make excuses. But as I've said how many times before, that we deserve the government that we elect. That's right, and that's what we're getting. Look, I mean, you did an amazing job when you were on council. I got to tell you, it was so heartening to know that you were really watching out for the financial well-being of the city. When I was mayor, I felt like I knew that Scott had our back. I knew that he had the people's back, and he was going to be looking for ways to not just keep taxes low, but to bring revenue in ways that were going to be creative and good for the city all the way around. But it's too bad that the citizens were lied to and misled in such a way that you and Adrian are no longer on the council. It's just a shame, but it is what it is. And there's no one to blame but those who voted, the voters who didn't come out and vote for you, and the ones who did vote for this group that's in now. all I can say is I'm glad that we're doing this show, and I'm glad that you're still sticking with it and not giving up.
You know, this is almost as bad as the retreat. I'm getting a little peckish.
I like you. I like you when you're a little peckish. We've gone round and round on a few things, which is good. So anyway, I appreciate again. Boy, you've been here all day. We've been going through different issues. Obviously, there's more.
And there's more to come.
There's more to come. So and so I promise that I will do everything I can to get Scott back. I know that he looks forward to this like a root canal, but it is helpful, I know, to those of you who watch and who are trying to get an understanding of what's going on in our city to what's happening. So don't forget to subscribe. It will give you the opportunity to understand when I'm doing a show live, and when I've finished a show, you can see whether or not it's something that interests you. I realize you can't watch all the shows. No one can, but hope that the information that we're providing you is helpful. So if you have any questions or comments, don't forget to email me at bob@bunkerbob.com. Love to hear from you. So until next time, we will see you later for a little more straight talk. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen. We'll see you next time.